Welcome to the Uncommon Expose, where it's my mission to connect, empower, and embolden all women through lived experience to erase shame, disconnect, and judgment. If you have an open mind, then I'd love for you to join me as I share these women's stories. If you have a question for my guest, you can send me a DM on Instagram at UncommonX. Make sure you hit follow when you're there. Good morning. Welcome to my podcast. Thank you so much for coming in. I think I need to change that intro because I'm always like, welcome. And it's getting a little bit repetitive. So I'm going to do something for the next session. But thank you for coming on and sharing with me your story. Your story is super interesting, I think. I'm not going to say what it is because that's your place, but super interesting, and I have lots and lots of questions. But I will get you to introduce yourself and then just introduce what you're here to talk about.
Sure. Hi, I'm Michaela. I'm 31 years old and I have a daughter, Alina. So I was diagnosed when I was 15 with a condition, I guess, called uterus didelphys. So basically I have two vaginas.
Yes.
The non-technical terms.
Yep.
So when I was 15, I just had really heavy periods, which I thought were just really heavy periods. And I had really bad cramps, so I went to the doctor.
How old were you when you got your first period?
I was 13.
Okay.
It was the end of year 8.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's a very typical age.
Yeah. So I was wearing pads because obviously mum was like, no, you're not wearing tampons.
You're a bit young.
Because I was a bit young.
Yeah.
I started getting stomach pains and my cramps were pretty bad.
Yeah.
So I went to the doctors. They referred me to get an ultrasound. And in the ultrasound, the lady's like, oh, you're special. And I was like, what?
Go on, tell me more, please.
And she's like, you have 2 uterus. And I'm like, how many are you supposed to have? And she's like, just one. And I was like, okay. So then I obviously had follow-up doctor's appointments. And it was kind of just information overload in those doctor's appointments.
Yeah, and at 15, you care, but you just don't really understand the full extent of anything.
I knew I always wanted to be a young mum.
Yeah.
But I didn't know the journey that I was going to have.
Yeah, true.
And, when you're 15, they obviously tell you not to worry and not to get pregnant.
Yeah.
So use protection. And so I was on the pill for to try and help with the cramping.
Yeah.
I was on the pill for I think 6 years from then. So anyway, so they told me that it might be a bit harder for me to get pregnant. They didn't tell me really anything else about the anatomy. I knew nothing. So I just still thought that I had the heavy periods. And then when I started to get a bit older and I started wearing tampons, I still had to wear a pad or a liner because I just thought, it's just coming down the side.
Yeah, leaking.
It wasn't filling the tampon, but it was just coming down the side. And then my ex and I, we were having intercourse one day and I lost my virginity, which I didn't know at the time that I'd lost my second virginity.
Yeah. So you've lost your virginity twice then?
Yeah.
Two different men or?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
With the first one, how old were you the first time?
I was 16.
Okay.
Yeah.
And at that point you still just thought there was just one
cervix.
Yeah.
Which I wouldn't have I didn't pay attention in sex ed.
Yeah, no.
So I didn't know anything really. And we never, I guess my parents weren't the kind to sit down and have the sex talk.
Yeah.
That was at school.
Yeah.
I always just thought that it was just the 2 uteruses.
Let's describe a normal, I'm going to pull up a Google image.
Yeah.
A normal, I shouldn't say normal, I feel like that's...
Oh, it is normal.
Is it a normal?
It's actually, so uterus didelphys, there's so many different types of uterus didelphys.
Yeah.
And shapes and sizes, walls, we can get into that though.
Yeah.
But mine, I know that it's approximately 1 in 2,000 women.
Wow.
So it's quite not
No, I was going to
uncommon,
say, yeah, more than...
But I guess you don't go up to someone and go, hi, I'm Michaela, vaginas.
How many do you have?
Yeah.
So with a regular vagina, normal vagina, it goes vagina, like canal, I guess, and then cervix, which is like a barrier between the vaginal wall and up into the uterus. Then that's when you imagine what looks like kind of like a T or a sheep's head. That's your cervix, which then spreads out into fallopian tubes and your ovaries. So where does yours differ?
So mine is normal on the outside.
Okay, yeah.
Very normal.
3 holes of urine poo-poos. And then the professional's medical term for the poo-poos.
Yeah.
And then a vaginal hole.
Yeah. So basically, as you go up into the vagina or the vaginal hole.
Yeah. Okay.
As you go in.
Yeah.
There's like a main hole.
Yeah.
It's straight up, but I call it the right one.
Okay.
And then slightly off to the left is the second hole.
The second one.
So when I had lost my virginity, during the intercourse, he, I think, was going a little bit too hard and went off to the left.
Yeah.
Very painful. And then so I was bleeding. I went and had a shower. Did some exploration just to see what was going on, or see if I can feel what's going on. Yeah. There was like a little bit of...
I guess you've already lost your virginity once, so what could be making... What could be bleeding? Did you just think maybe at the time you got your period, like unexpectedly? Yeah. Yes. But then I guess there's lots of pain.
But then it didn't continue. So I called my best friend. I'm like, you need to come over ASAP. Yeah. Because I need you to look inside, because I obviously cannot. Yeah. And my partner doesn't know what he's looking for.
Like, men. Yeah. And their well-rounded knowledge of female anatomy.
Yes, exactly. So, like, there was, like, a little bit of, like, what would you call it? Like a flicky? Like a piece of cartilage.
What's that thing that's at the back of your throat?
That's exactly what it felt like.
I don't remember
what I could only imagine that would feel like or look like. So... I could feel that. And so, after I got out of the shower, I was still slightly bleeding. And so I'm on the bed, legs up. She's like investigating.
Yeah, good on her.
What a good friend.
Good. That is the epitome. Are you still friends with her?
We're still best friends.
Okay, good. That's what you want.
Yeah. So she's having a feel to see if anything. She could feel the bit of, I guess, cartilage. Would you call it?
Well, this is what we were discussing just before. I think it was your hymen.
Oh yes.
And so we were. History lesson here. Years ago, when women had to be virgins, the hymen was the indicator of whether you were a virgin or not. And the man during intercourse would then break the hymen, and the amount of blood that came out would be, or the fact that blood came out would be an indicator that the woman was a virgin. And if you can break your hymen in all sorts of different areas, like playing ball sport. I fell when I was small and about 8 or 6 and broke mine. So it's not an actual verifiable indicator of virginity. But years ago, if there wasn't enough blood or any blood on the sheets, they would put animal blood on the sheets, hang the sheets out of the window to prove that the woman was a virgin and that the marriage had been consummated. So I think it was your hymen.
But I could have saved someone years ago.
Yeah, you could have. That's right. So yeah, I think it would have been your hymen.
I'm pretty certain.
It's a bit of tissue.
The cherry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was dangling there for a bit.
Yeah. Did that just like go away itself?
Yeah, I don't think it's there now.
Just like absorb, like you want to get your wisdom teeth out or something.
Yeah, I think it just grows into the normal skin maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know, but. That happened and it was horrible and it was painful. Yeah. And so she checked it out for me. And then my partner at the time and we'd gotten engaged when I was very young and dumb. Mm-hmm. And I think all I wanted at the time was the house, the marriage and the kids. Yeah. So we'd done the house. We were getting married, and then we're like, okay, well, we want to be young parents. Let's get all the tests done. obviously we need to look into what's to go with these two uteruses.
Yeah.
And see what issues that may cause.
Yeah.
So I got my AMH level tested, which is my egg count, and all the hormone tests, because my periods also weren't and I think it was the pill and getting off the pill.
Okay.
So I think it was February, the year that I turned 22, which, oh God, that's 9 years ago now. I actually got off the pill. And from then my period was it was not regular at all. And I was in a lot of pain. So after we got all those tests done, I went and got another ultrasound. And at the very last minute of that ultrasound, the sonographer, is that what it's called?
Sonographer, yeah, sonographer? I think so.
He was like, did you know you have two cervixes? And I said, now what's a cervix? What part of the vagina is a cervix?
Yeah.
And he's like, the vaginal canal. You've got two. And I'm like, well, I knew I had two uteruses, but I didn't know. And this is like 6 years later.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but I didn't know I had the two cervixes. So I went back to the doctor. He referred me to the Redlands Hospital, the gynecology there. And I was getting a pap smear, and they wanted to have a look, I guess. And it ended up being like 10 people looking inside of my vagina. They could not find this other cervix.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's like as you go in, I'm trying to like direct them because I'd found it at this point.
And at the next corner, take a left.
Yeah. And like at this point, I was obviously wearing tampons, so I've had to wear 2 tampons, one for each hole.
Yeah.
So like I knew where it was, and I'm trying to put their hands and their fingers.
Right, so sorry, just to backtrack, when you found the second hole yourself during sex, you didn't do anything about that, like go to a doctor, or did you just...
Well, it was pretty close to when we were going to be looking at trying for a baby, so it kind of all was around that time.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So yeah, I didn't realize that I had the other hole there though. Like I just thought it was normal, you know.
Yeah.
I probably felt that there was like no wall there.
Yeah.
But I think I was so hyper focused on this little dangly bit.
Yeah.
Like,
sorry.
It's fine. Oh, it's fine.
So they were, back to the original story, they were putting their fingers and you were trying to direct them.
And they couldn't find it. So I ended up having to get a sedated pap smear.
Jesus.
So
did you see any female doctors in that time? Were they all men?
They were all men.
They were all men. Yeah.
So it's pretty confronting though, like having like, and I'm not joking or exaggerating when I say there was 10 doctors that had come in.
Yeah. That is very, I don't like male, there's nothing wrong with male doctors, but I prefer to see a female doctor.
Yeah, same. And I do request that now.
Yeah, me too.
Now that I'm a bit less naive and, you know. So we did that, the sedated pap smear, and then I had follow-up doctor's appointments and everything. And during those doctor's appointments, they were telling me all the risks of what could happen, whether they take out the septum, which is actually the wall that cuts the uterus and the cervix in half.
Yeah.
So basically, and they also told me that when you're a baby, nothing is developed down there.
Yeah.
So as you get older, you develop your uterus and your cervix. So as I got older, my uterus and cervix developed with a wall going down the middle of it.
And that's the only thing in your body that developed with that wall?
I believe so.
Okay.
I hope so.
The heart.
I have normal amount of kidneys. Like everything else seems fine.
Yeah.
So basically it was just that wall that was developed as I was growing.
Yeah.
We don't know if it's like hereditary or anything like that. I mean, I can't really ask anyone now because we don't really, no one I know has it in the family.
Yeah.
So, yeah, another one of the risks which was quite frightening and I guess stressed me out my whole 20s was the doctor said to me, you need to have babies by the time you're 30.
Wow.
Otherwise, you'll have to plan for a future without babies. So growing up my whole 20s, I had this stress.
Oh.
So even though my relationship was, it was honestly doomed from the start.
Yeah.
We went on to get married. We were trying to conceive. My egg count results, were extremely low at 21.
Oh, wow.
So I had like the egg count of like a 40-something-year-old. So I had that against me as well.
Did they, I'm sure that they did, but they did count both ovaries?
Yes.
Like they
I
didn't
believe so. It's
just get
done
confused.
By a blood test.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So I don't really know the science term of that.
Me either. If you know, feel free to send me a message.
That would be good. But I think, so they say that it can't increase. But over the years, mine had increased a little bit.
Oh, interesting.
So like I'll get there soon, but when I got it a couple of years ago, before Alina was born, it was up a little bit higher.
Oh, positive.
So that was really good.
Yeah.
So another couple...
Why, sorry, is it just because of the egg count, that's why you had to have, or you were told that you needed to have babies in your 20s because your egg count was low, or is there a risk to do with the cervix?
So there's a risk with the uterus didelphys. One, it's cut in half. So depending on how big it can stretch, I guess where the embryo or egg and sperm implant, which I found out later, that's why I'd had some miscarriages. It was where the egg actually implanted.
Right. So you managed to fall pregnant when you were trying, but they just wouldn't...
Not with my ex. Though.
Okay.
So my periods were all over the place.
Yeah.
So I was seeing fertility specialists.
Yeah.
And they all said that you have a higher risk of miscarriage with the uterus didelphys.
Yeah.
You have a higher rate of stillbirth, and just to not get pregnant.
Yeah. And were your periods all over the place because you were having 2 periods?
Well, it was also my hormones were out, so I had nothing on my side.
Yeah, okay.
So my thyroid at one point was too high. My prolactin started to increase, like skyrocket, to the point where I was leaking.
When you weren't pregnant?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we had all like those tests done. I didn't realize at the time, at that point, that my prolactin had increased.
Yeah.
It was mainly my thyroid. I was seeing gynecologists and fertility specialists. So I did like the whole temperature tracking. I was doing like vitamins. I was getting scans back then to see if I had eggs, in which side.
And this was all with your ex?
Yeah, with my eggs. Yeah.
Ex, sorry.
Oh, with my ex. Sorry. Yeah, my eggs and my ex. Yes.
Okay, good. Your eggs and your ex.
Yes. And his sperm.
Yeah, okay, good to know.
So after a while of trying, he told me it was my fault, which I already felt like I was a complete failure, and my body wasn't doing what most women are made to do, right? So that relationship was completely breaking down. It was probably just short of 2 years after we got married, and I was like, well, I can't keep trying with you. That's a whole story in itself, but I left, and then 2 weeks later I met Dean.
Oh, yeah.
After I'd left. And so...
That's your current partner.
Yeah, he was meant to just be a fling.
Yeah,
so
of course.
We were never going to amount to anything, but then obviously he's a really good egg.
Yeah.
So I couldn't let him go.
Yeah.
And we just got along so well, and like he knew a lot, I guess, of what was going on because I worked with his brother.
Yeah, okay.
So, I would vent to his brother on the phone, in the car on the way home, and Dean would be there with him.
Yeah, right.
So he knew, like, a lot, I guess, of my life because I'm an open book.
Yeah.
And so...
Which we love.
Yeah. And so he and I started seeing each other, and then obviously we made it official.
Yeah.
And I told him that if we're going to want a baby, we're going to have to, I guess, start trying. Like, this is like a year down the track.
Well, that's still a decent amount of time.
Start trying, but not.
Yeah, just stop not trying.
Stop not trying.
Yeah.
So then, like, again, I don't know if it was just because of stress, but my hormones were out of whack. And this one night, we were doing some things.
Yeah.
And he saw milk on his hand.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he's like, what the fuck? Like, are you okay? And I was just like, yeah. And I was just, and he could taste it.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
yes.
yeah. No, that's fair.
Yep.
We all get the picture you're painting.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, where did that come from?
Surprise to me too.
And then I was like, not drenched, but I was like, had milk all over me. And I was like, what? So
That's not the first time that had happened? Just the first time?
This is the time that I was milking, yes.
The very first time.
Okay. So I was shocked. He was
shocked.
shocked.
You were, okay.
Yeah. And so we obviously booked in a doctor's appointment.
Yeah.
And
so how long had you been together at this point? 12 months?
Maybe just short of 12 months.
Okay, that's a decent amount of time to be with someone then.
Yeah. So I booked in a doctor's appointment, saw the doctor, got all the tests done, prolactin's high, which is, I think Cinta explained it really well last week on the podcast.
Yeah.
So when your prolactin is high, I believe she said your dopamine is low.
Yeah, okay.
But it thinks that you're basically a breastfeeding mother.
Yeah.
So when you're breastfeeding, your prolactin skyrockets.
Yeah, okay.
So mine was quite high, enough for me to be leaking.
And just hormones, like, I mean, like you...
Yeah, so it's one of the main pregnancy hormones, I believe.
Yes, but you weren't pregnant at all.
No, and I'd never fallen pregnant.
And you don't know what the trigger was for your body to think that...
I got referred to a endocrinologist, and they deal with all the pregnancy hormones.
Yeah.
And she said that I had a benign microadenoma tumour on my pituitary gland.
Oh, shit.
So it wasn't like a big one. It was micro. But that can stop your periods and make you milk. Yeah. So I had to get like MRI scans to get that all checked out. And then I had to go on this medication called Dostinex, which they give Dostinex to mums that don't want to breastfeed anymore. Or if you just have a baby and you want to stop your milk coming in, they'll give them that medication.
Yeah.
So I was on that. And yeah, we were like starting to go, okay, well, let's really try now.
Yeah.
We'll start to, start tracking like ovulation, temperature.
Yeah.
We got referred from the doctor to a...
Sorry. Yep. The tumour's still in there?
It was.
It didn't,
just before I
removed
felt pregnant, there was a little one in there.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So, no, you don't have to get it removed. All that they were looking out for was that it doesn't grow.
Yeah.
Because it can affect your eyes.
Yeah, okay.
And give you blurry vision.
Yeah. So, sorry, you were...
That's okay.
Tracking?
Yeah, we were tracking ovulation. We got referred to our fertility specialist. So we started off with Dr. Neil Astle. He's in Sunnybank, and he was really good. We didn't want to go down the IVF or IUI route straight away. Mm-hmm. So basically I would just go in monthly for scans to see which ovary I was releasing an egg from. God. So I had like normal 2 ovaries.
Yeah.
That link to the uterus each.
1 each, yeah.
Yeah. So I would go in monthly for the scans to see which side.
It's a lot of work, isn't it, already?
Yeah. And money. Like,
yeah.
I wasn't on any medication at that point.
Yeah.
I was just trying to get all my hormones right, see if I was actually ovulating.
Yeah.
And I had eggs there to drop.
Yeah.
But they just weren't taking.
Yeah. Okay.
Dean had gotten tested in all of this time. Cinta had looked over his sperm results. His were mostly fine. There was no, again, I'm feeling like a failure, but he never made me feel like that, which is really nice.
Yeah.
So I guess, we just kind of worked together. He did everything that he needed to do. I did everything that I needed to do. And it just wasn't taking. Like, I'd even tried the anti-inflammatory diets. I was getting the acupuncture with Cinta.
Yeah.
And that I found mentally helpful.
Mm-hmm.
But then, obviously, the financial costs of
everything.
I couldn't maintain it, doing it weekly, and that was really tough.
Yeah.
And so he then started me on letrozole, which is it's meant to help like boost your eggs and quality, like quantity and quality. And that the side effects of the letrozole, it's like I was probably quite grumpy. Your libido majorly plummets. Well, I mean, mine did.
Yeah. Okay.
Mine did. There was just a lot of really shitty side effects on that.
Yeah.
But I was on that for like months. And then he'd be like, take a break from it. But because I wanted a baby so much and I had tablets there, I didn't take a break from it because I obsessed over it.
Yeah.
And then,
is that your personality generally, or do you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. I definitely am having an obsession or obsessive personality.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So then we decided that we would do IVF, and that was, I think, 3 years ago now. Mm-hmm. So basically we've been trying to conceive. That's right.
It's me with the cough this time.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
We were trying to conceive for, I think, 4.5 years.
Wow.
So we then reached out to First Step Fertility here in Springfield.
Yep.
And they were really good. Like, they allowed us to go with Dr. Astle. So then he did all my like retrievals, transfers, and he knew my anatomy.
Yeah.
So basically, we tried I think 2 rounds with them of retrievals and maybe 3 transfers.
Yeah.
And nothing. Or I fell pregnant once with one of those eggs, and we lost it at 6 weeks.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, but I will rewind. I do apologise.
So you're going to cover your mouth in like a secret.
No, I got a secret. No, I will rewind. I can't remember when we started that round of IVF, but the January of the year that we started a couple of years ago, I actually fell pregnant naturally.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I believe that was a letrozole cycle.
Yeah.
But we lost that. After,
do you remember how many weeks?
Yeah, 6 weeks.
Okay,
so they were all very, very early.
Yeah.
So that's why we decided, okay, well, I seem to be able to fall pregnant. Yeah. Let's do the IVF. And when you think of IVF, you think, I'm going to fall pregnant.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, you think it can't fail.
Yeah.
Because you're paying all this money and they're literally putting it and implanting it in you.
How much do you think at that point where the IVF pregnancy took, how much do you think that would have cost you financially? For everything so far. And if you can off the top of the head, like including the acupuncture.
Oh gosh, I should have thought about this beforehand. Oh, it was
like a
thousands.
loose amount. Yeah, like 5,000, 7,000, 10,000.
I mean, thank God for Medicare.
Oh, yeah.
Probably up to 20 plus.
Wow. I ask only because people know that it's a lot of money. But
yeah, well,
you sometimes, obviously IVF is lump sums or like a big amount that you see, but when you add in all of those other little things that you're trying.
The medications alone when you're doing IVF is almost 500 to 1,000, depending what medications are on the PBS.
Yeah, okay.
Of that month or.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so we decided to do IVF. So First Step Fertility in Springfield, they're bulk bill.
Yeah, okay.
But you're still forking out a few grand.
Yeah.
And then, we did quite a few rounds. We did a few rounds with them. Didn't work or didn't take, or we lost one. And then we decided to go privately with Dr. Astle.
Yeah.
And we just, in the end, like I lost another 2 babies. I had another 2 miscarriages.
About 6 weeks as well?
Yeah. One was maybe 5 weeks, one was 6 weeks. But, you know, you get that positive test. That's all you've been longing for, basically my whole 20s.
Yeah.
And you just feel like and you're approaching 30.
Yeah.
Like you just feel like the biggest failure. So I got to a point where probably after the 3rd miscarriage, and this is over a few years.
Yeah.
And I was like, I may have to make the decision to leave Dean because I can't do this to him. And then I had like Mum and my friend and Dean all telling me, don't take that decision away from Dean. Because
Absolutely,
if he wants to be with you, like he knows that what's going on.
Yeah.
He knows everything.
Yeah.
Why would you take that away from him when he wants to be with you? And he always said, if we can't, I want to be with you.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I can't take that away from him, can I? Can I? So, yeah, that was really, I just felt like I was never going to give him, and we couldn't continue to go through the same cycle.
Yeah.
Like it'd been, 4.5 years coming up to the end of it. Like I got to a point where, so after we had our last miscarriage, and we were like one more round of IVF.
Yeah.
One more. And leading up to that, I actually, this is kind of hard to talk about, but I became really depressed. So I was seeing a lady at the Rosie Room.
Yep.
And I didn't want to get out of bed. Like it was just same shit, same day, same routine. Yeah. I was hating life. Yeah. And I knew that I had to contact someone because I rang, who was it? 13, Lifeline.
Health? Oh, okay.
I rang Lifeline and I said, I can't keep living anymore because I don't know how to. I don't want to live without a child. I can't break up with my partner because he wants to be with me and I want to be with him, but I can't give him that. Yeah. So I don't want to be here. Yeah. I don't want to wake up in the morning.
And now hormones and things like that are going to change your mindset. You never considered not having a baby? Like you just said then, you can't live without a baby?
Well, that's a mindset that I was in. Yeah, that was that's how I was feeling. And I was... I'd be driving and I'd go and I'd think, if I run into that guardrail and don't take my foot off the brake, like I would be okay with that. Yeah. And then I'd be like, okay, but I have family, like, and Dean and our dog. Yeah, yeah. And like, I didn't want to be there. So then I contacted the Rosie Room because I was like, that me calling Lifeline, like that is obviously serious and I don't know what's going to happen because I just saw black. I couldn't see a future. And I said to Dan, I'm like, why can't I see a future? Is that because I'm not going to be here? Like, am I going to die? Yeah. So I was just like, yeah, okay, I can't live like that because I won't be living at all. Yeah, yeah. So I rang the Rosie Room, booked an appointment. She was really good. I had, I think, 5 or 6 sessions with her. And in the last session, she says, I think, well, judging from all of our sessions, I didn't want to just diagnose you or get you to go on medication, but you are depressed. Yeah. And I think you should go on medication. There are medications that you can take while you're pregnant or while you're trying to conceive. And so I was like, okay. It was a bit of a shock, even though I knew, like I had a feeling, like, you know, there's depression that runs in the family on my dad's side. Yeah. And I knew, but I was in denial, I think. Yeah. So I went to the doctor and... Was there relief or just shock? A bit of both. Yeah, I feel it was relief in the sense of, okay, it's okay. Yeah. Like there's it's okay. Yeah. Like this isn't just me. Yeah. There's something else going on like beyond chemically my thoughts. Inside. Yeah. And I think it's because it's all I had been doing in my 20s. my whole 20s was trying to conceive, trying to get my hormones right.
Yeah.
There was just one roadblock after another.
Yeah.
Just constant shit.
Yeah.
And so I booked in a doctor's appointment and saw the doctor, and he said, I can't give you anything. And I said, what do you mean? I'm here because I need help.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm reaching out because I don't want to be alive.
Yeah.
What do you mean you can't have me? And he says, I think you need to see your normal doctor, because she was away. And I said, and so then she could give you a mental health review and give you that medication. I said, but I'm here.
Yeah.
What if I walk out of this room or this, and I don't want to be here anymore? Like, what? So I said, can you just give me a script for a antidepressant that I can take while I'm trying to conceive or pregnant? And he's like, okay.
What was his rationale?
Because he didn't know me. Because I'd seen the other doctor, like she was my normal doctor.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm like, I just need it. And so he ended up giving me the referral for the antidepressants.
Yeah.
And so I got it, and we were going to a wedding that day. So I was like, well, I'll take it after. And then I started taking it. I only took a half a dose because I don't usually take full doses of things unless I have to.
Yeah.
Because I hate being on any medications.
Yeah.
And slowly but surely I started to feel, I would say, a little bit happier, but a little bit emotionless.
Yeah, okay.
So like I was content, I guess. But I didn't feel sad, but it's a really weird feeling.
Yeah, like
really.
numb?
Yeah. But I could be happy. I could get into a happier mindset. But I was feeling very numb. And then so Dan and I had the discussion, and this was only last year.
Yeah.
Before we conceived Alina, and we had the discussion. I said, honey, we need to start looking at life without a baby.
Yeah.
Because I was just about to turn 30, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I cannot go into my 30s.
Yeah.
Trying to conceive, the up and the down. Like, you're so hopeful at the start of the month. You're doing something to try and get to that end result, and then it all just comes crashing down on you.
Yeah.
And like you're at such a low, and then you get your period again, and then you have to be at this high, and you got to be positive, and then it would just plummet. And so I'm like, I can't. And he's like, yep, that's fine. We'll give it one more round if you're happy to do that.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work.
Yeah. So
I started on the medications for IVF, like all the stimulants, the injections, and I hate needles. So all this time I've been having to get needles, and I absolutely hate needles. And so I know this one just felt, I think I just didn't care as much, to be honest with you. I was just like, whatever, it's just, we're doing it.
Yeah.
And whatever, I have to plan my life without a baby.
Yeah.
And so, and then I could start seeing life without a baby.
Yeah, okay.
It wasn't black anymore.
Yeah.
And so we started...
Maybe acceptance.
Yeah,
like,
I think so.
Mentally.
Yeah, and I think with the antidepressants, they helped me see, like, I guess, I don't know.
Just find something positive to focus on,
maybe?
maybe?
I think so.
Yeah.
We were, just before that round of IVF, actually, we had submitted an adoption paperwork.
Oh, wow.
So we did discuss that, but we never followed through. In the end, I just said, no, like, it's too, I can't, like I said, going into my 30s, that's just another thing to stress about and get disappointed about. So I started doing all the stimulations, and, we did the ultrasound to see how many eggs I had in my ovaries, and we had 3. And so, which is like, fuck all. But I never got too many. Like, I'd always had like 8 or 6, but something that we could work with, right?
Yeah.
So I had 3. And
3.
He's like, okay, that's not what we were hoping for. Go home, discuss it. If you want to go ahead with it, we can. Chances of us saving all 3, very slim. But if you want to cancel the round, we can cancel the round.
Yeah.
So I was like, in the car, we were discussing it, and I just said, what are you thinking? I knew what I was thinking. Like, I knew in my mind.
Yeah.
Dean knew in his mind. But he's like, what are you thinking?
Yeah.
And I was like, I think we're thinking the same thing. But you have to say it first because I can't.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't want to upset you, but I think we need to cancel it. And I was like, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Let's cancel it. So I rang him, and he's like, no, that's fine. If, like, do you want to ring City Fertility? Rang them because he worked with them.
Yeah.
Rang them, and they said to me on the phone, because you've got 3 follicles, don't have sex because you might fall pregnant and have a chance of having 3.
Oh, 3 babies?
Yeah.
Oh,
and
shit.
I was just like, no worries, thank you very much. Whatever.
Yeah.
And so I was
Three's better than none.
yeah. And I was like to Dean, let's just take matters into our own hands this round.
Yeah.
Like, we'll cancel it. I rang my doctor and I said, hey, so hypothetically, if one were to take matters into their own hands, this is a hypothetical.
Yeah.
When do they take the trigger shot? And he's like, well, on a hypothetical level, they would take it 48 hours or whatever it was, and then they would have intercourse at this time. And so I was like, thank you. So then I quickly jumped onto eBay and I ordered like sperm syringes, and because they have like this special end on them.
Yeah, that's what I imagine turkey-based are, but
yeah,
said it was
not as exciting.
Said it was a bit more rounded and gentle.
Yes. Yeah, and I actually texted Cinta and I said to her, hey.
Hey, girl.
Hey.
What you doing?
Talk to your wife.
Yeah,
because we've all got to be on the same page, but will you inseminate me? Yeah. And I'm like, please, like, no obligation.
Yeah.
If we do it, we're all in it together. We've all got to be on board.
Yeah.
So, and that was as a friend, not as like an acupuncturist business. So I'm like, you did it for your wife, so you've got a pretty good,
understanding of the procedure.
Yeah, and her wife got pregnant with twins. So, yeah. And so she got back to me and she's like, yeah, like, that's fine. I'm happy to do that. So she told us what we needed to do. Yeah. And I think it was on the Friday. So, like, the syringes came the next day, and then the next day after that was insemination day. Wow. And so she's like, we're coming over now. Tell Dean to have a shower and do his thing. And so I'm like, Dean, get in the shower, do your thing. And so
I can imagine you, like, running through the house.
I was. And I'm like, honey, why are you in the spare shower? And he's just like, because you'll bother me. You'll interrupt me. And I'm like, yeah, okay, makes sense. I'm like, have fun.
Enjoy.
And then so they came over.
So when he, like, does his thing, I imagine it has to be into a sterile cup.
Yeah, I bought one from the chemist that day.
Okay,
so,
yeah.
Yes.
No, that's right. I definitely just a bit of Tupperware or an empty Coke bottle. Who knows?
Look, I would have sterilised it, but yes.
Yeah, okay.
But no, I got a little cup from the chemist that day. So it was all set up. Yeah. And so
bit of mood music, selection magazine.
So pretty much. They walked in, we went into the kitchen. Amy's like, oh, just sit and watch TV. And I'm like, Amy, you're in there too.
Yeah, we're all in this together. Like, and it's not Amy's first vagina, I'm sure.
That's right. Yeah. Well, she was standing so I'll set the scene for you,
set the scene.
For everyone. Yeah. Amy was standing at the door. I was laying on the bed, legs propped up. Dean was in the corner on the dog bed, holding the dog back. So then she didn't jump on me. And then Cinta is down at my business end. Yeah. So she was very professional and very careful. And then she did it. And then I just stayed propped up for 45 minutes. And then this is where the mobile acupuncturists come into play. She did acupuncture straight after for to help it stick.
Yay.
And then they left.
Yeah.
And we watched the backup plan.
Yeah.
It's got J-Lo in it.
Yeah.
And she did the IUI. So we needed all the baby juju.
Yeah,
that we could get.
Good.
And then I just stayed like that for like 45 minutes, an hour. And then I had a shower and went to bed. And I think it was 10 days later. So the trigger shot would have already been out of my system because that can last up to about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But in my system, I got rid of it about 10, 11 days.
Yeah.
So it was out of my system. And I was actually doing a workout with one of my friends at the gyms that she goes to. And we went to the shops afterwards. And I'm like, I'll just buy a pregnancy test, hey? Let's just do it.
Why not?
It's probably not going to work, but...
Yeah.
Like, I didn't have any symptoms or anything.
Did you have hope?
I did. Yeah. I had hope. I think because we did the insemination... and I knew that we had at least a chance of 3.
Yeah.
And they hadn't been touched. They hadn't been...
fondled.
Yeah.
So this was the first time out of all the other trials of different routes. Was this the first time that you trialed IUI?
I did like an at-home IUI ourselves.
Yeah.
I feel so guilty because... Dean would be sick. Like, this is how bad it got. Dean would be really sick. And I'd be like, honey, in the shower, can you just do it? And then I'll just insert it.
Yeah, okay.
It was so bad.
Yeah.
So he I think... I
would say committed.
Yes.
Committed to the cause.
But then I think he felt like... There was one time where he's like, I will do whatever I have to do, but I will let you know... It's not a nice feeling being told, just go in the corner and come and give it to me.
Yeah, okay.
Like, so and then I kind of backed off the brakes a little bit then because I felt really guilty.
Yeah, I think I would too, but I can also understand your mindset.
Yeah.
And why you were doing the things that you were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was really hard when you said that. But it was a very long journey.
Yeah, and you... Not to discredit how he was feeling, but it was even longer for you.
Yeah. Oh, well, like
you were getting to that
whole 20s and it was me that was...
And there was a bit of a deadline.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of pressure. Not to of course, his feelings are valid, but there's more to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, his is more emotional where he's got to emotionally be there for me. Like, it was all about me, which I also felt very guilty for.
Wow.
But he was so supportive.
And men are different. They're emotionally wired differently.
Yeah, and they're very resilient.
Yeah, and they don't really, they're tougher. Yeah,
they are tougher. Yeah. So I did that pregnancy test that morning, and it was like this most faintest. I'm like, Christy, is it there? Is it positive? Can you see the line?
Yeah.
So we're like obsessing over this, like staring at it in the light, in the dark. It was ridiculous. And I'm like, I swear there's a bit of a line. But then I'm like, is that the trigger?
Yeah.
Is that still in my system? So then for a few days it was a bit of a spiral. But then also it's like, shit, have I just got a positive pregnancy test? Am I going to lose it?
Yeah, of course.
It was just like this whole lot of emotions.
Yeah.
And then every day it got slightly dark and I'm like just waiting for the loss. And so I booked into the doctor. He gave me a referral. I was pregnant. It was like every other miscarriage. It would be like, your HCG's up. But it would never double. It would never. So like in a space of like 3 weeks, I'd get like, 10 blood tests. Like a pin cushion every single time. But then this one was doubling. So I was going every second day to get a blood test for like ages.
Is that common practice or was that just what you wanted to do, to go every second day?
Yeah, I chose to do that.
Okay, yeah.
I think if I hadn't had any losses or I think because of the other losses and I knew it wasn't doubling.
Yeah.
And I mean, the doctor was amazing. He was like, just keep using it and going.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
So then it got to a point where he's like, you don't need to anymore, Michaela. Like it's okay. And then we saw...
Did you cry? Because I want to cry right now.
Oh yeah.
I can imagine the elation.
And I started to slowly get off my antidepressants, even though the emotions, the feels, it was all still there. Yeah. But I didn't want to go through pregnancy on it.
Yeah.
I wanted to feel everything that I needed to feel.
Yeah, okay.
Myself in pregnancy.
Yeah.
And so, like, all the trauma was still there. Yeah. It's still there now. Yeah. Just because I had a baby.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it was... I guess it's just buried.
Yeah.
Buried low. Far down.
There's someone who doesn't experience grief. I've seen lots of images and spoken to people who have. The grief never goes away, but your world grows around it. So it might not be buried, but now you have big things that bring you joy that are connected to that grief, so it might feel a bit different.
Yeah.
So maybe...
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But I had, like, a pretty good pregnancy. Unfortunately, my fertility specialist, he'd stopped delivering babies. So we did... That was unfortunate, but we found another obstetrician, and he was amazing.
Oh, good.
Yeah, he was based in Bowen Hills, and he was the best. And he had dealt with my condition.
Yeah, positive. That's good.
Before. So he'd delivered like 10 babies that had the uterus idelphus.
See, and that is, to me, quite common.
Yeah.
Well, not common, but... more common than I would have expected.
Yeah.
10 mothers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was, I guess you could say, relatively experienced.
Yes.
So, but he also taught me a lot, even when I was pregnant with Alina.
Yeah.
So basically, where he says probably the 4 times that we had the miscarriages, if the egg was implanted too far into the right wall, she was never going to get enough nutrition, or they were never going to get enough nutrition.
Is the right wall, or like, when you say right wall, do you mean
to the left, like
the divide,
so the septum, like the wall down.
So if they implanted near the septum, then that was
the baby was never going to get enough.
Okay.
Nutrition.
Yeah.
So where Alina was implanted was perfect. He said it was probably one of the best placenta, like she couldn't have been better.
Oh my God, that's so good. So, she's meant to be here, the little trooper.
She is, and she's not meant to be a baby either. She doesn't want to be a baby.
No. She is ready for adulthood.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, good on her.
But like we had a pretty good pregnancy. Yeah. Very tight. By 32 weeks, I was like, you need to cut her out of me because I don't know how she's going to grow. But we made it to 37 and a half, and I think she was pretty comfy in there.
Yeah,
but
okay.
We didn't want to go any further because it could have caused more complications.
Yeah.
And she could have had like the growth defects, I think. Could have slowed down her growth.
Yeah, okay.
So, but she was only 2.5 kilos when she was born.
But you've said this to me before, she was only growing in half a uterus.
Yeah.
So I would assume that's a huge correlation to her being a petite little baby.
Yeah. And like all the doctors previously had said, you will not make it to full term.
Yeah, wow.
But I reckon I could have gotten to at least 38, 39 weeks.
Yeah, yeah.
But, yeah.
And then you had a cesarean birth?
Yeah.
That was it? There was no other option? You were just having cesarean, or could you have...
He said I could have tried for a vaginal.
Yeah. But
he also said that the risk of tearing and pushing her out could be really, really dangerous.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, but you know what? I was fine with having a cesarean. Yep. As long as she's out safely, I'm fine with whatever happens. Yeah. So, but yeah, like he was actually quite knowledgeable on it, but he has said to me, just because of my egg count, he said that if you do want to go back for another one, probably do it pretty much straight away after.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
I'm 4 months postpartum and I am not ready for another one yet.
Yeah. Is all of your experience in pregnancy, does that affect any future pregnancies that you'd want to have?
Well, he said if I can do it, if I can fall pregnant in my left.
Okay. So she was in the right?
She was in the right.
Okay.
He said that if I could fall pregnant in my left, it would cause no further damage. The right, it'd be like I've only had one baby in the right.
Yep.
It would be really good if I fell pregnant in the left. But I don't think I could do IVF again. that was a really dark, really, really dark time in my life. And I think it'd be too triggering. And I couldn't imagine doing that with the baby, well, with the toddler.
Yeah.
So.
And then the left uterus is connected to the side cervix and hole?
Yeah, so like the left has its left cervix.
The side bit. And that's, you said that was painful though.
Yes, very painful.
Yeah.
Extremely painful.
Yeah.
To have any intercourse in there. But even the stirrups that they use, like I couldn't even imagine for IVF.
Yeah.
I couldn't even imagine them opening it. Because it would be very, very painful.
Yeah. Wow.
But even now, after having a baby, like it is so painful even to have sex.
In the
right.
Yeah. So
in either.
In the regular, the
regular
one.
The regular hole.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Okay. But you think that was from? Oh, I guess you had a cesarean. That's unusual.
I don't know. I think maybe because my body's not back to where it was. Like at the moment now, even 4 months postpartum, I haven't actually breastfed since she was 10 weeks, and I'm still leaking. So I had a blood test the other day. Mm-hmm. And my prolactin was like double what it's ever been. When I've not been pregnant or breastfeeding. Yeah. So I'm back on that Dosinex medication.
Yeah.
So but it'll take a bit of time to get back to that hormone back to normal.
And why did you choose not to breastfeed?
I never...
For the listeners, there is never any judgment on breastfed, bottle fed, any feeding. I just would like to hear
that's okay.
Your reasoning.
From before I had her, I never had this big, I want to breastfeed. I was actually like, if I can get to 2 weeks of breastfeeding, I will be so proud of myself. Like I never had this whole attachment-y thing where I was like, I must breastfeed.
Yeah.
So then I started to breastfeed. I'm like, if I can make 4 weeks, this will be good. And it was like really convenient. Yeah. But I don't think we ever like bonded over that.
Yeah, okay.
I think, and then I was like, if I can get to 6 and 8, then I'll be really proud. And then I just got to the point where I'm like, I haven't had my body, and it might be a bit selfish. I don't know.
No, not after hearing your story.
I haven't had my body since I was 20 something.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to do what I want with it. Yeah. And I want it back. Yeah. And especially if I'm going to go down the path of getting pregnant again, like I'll lose it again. So if I can get my body back, be healthy, train, which I need to be better at doing that.
No.
Then I can
doing amazing.
Get myself to where I want to be to prepare for another baby. Yeah. And I just decided that we'd put her on goat's milk formula, which she's reacting really well to. Yeah. And that's why we decided to. But I feel like we bonded, bottle feeding, because she can look at me. Yeah. She looks at me, and I feed her in front of me on my legs, and she holds my hands, and
Dean can do it.
I
think there's benefits to every type of feeding, breastfeeding, bottle feeding. There's advantages.
Yeah, and they have a special bond too.
Finding what works for you. Yeah.
So, I don't know. I just think if I was to go back again, I don't even know if I would breastfeed straight off the bat. Yeah. I don't know. But it was very convenient. Yeah. And it was, I guess, people do judge though, when you're out and you pull out your boob. Like Dean was always like, oh, here, do you want a wrap? And I'll put it over you. In the end, I was like, no, I really don't want a wrap. Yeah. I don't care who can see me because I'm feeding my baby. Yeah. Like I'm respectful. I have my shirt there. Yeah. No. Don't go shirtless or braless. Like.
Yeah, and just boobs flopping out.
Yeah, and I was sick of constantly drenching my breast pads.
Yeah, I found that.
I was sick of wearing them and having to wear.
And you already had quite a bit of time with breast milk experience.
Breast milking for a while.
Yeah.
So but I don't know. The whole experience. I look back now and I'm like, sorry. I was like, fuck, how did I cope? Like, how was I? Like, I was working. Thankfully, Dean allowed me to go part time at work. But I was like, how did I show up to work and do all of that? Like every month, go in to get scans, get on the medications. Like, it was shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine.
So.
Yeah.
But we're here now. We have
Yes.
Alina. But I know that, like, Dr. Astle, he would talk at seminars. He would meet with all, like, the board of doctors and specialists. And he'd tell them about my case and why, like, how was I losing all these babies? No one could give answers.
Yeah, okay.
No one. They could only bring it down to my 2 uteruses.
Yeah, and the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. It was just truly mind-blowing, I think. Even though it's, 1 in 2,000, you're the first person that I've knowingly met. But I am going to start doing this with all of my podcast guests. So if you plan on coming on, then you can look forward to this question. What would be your biggest takeaway or lesson, or if you had to go through the last, 11 years or 15, however many years again, what would you tell yourself?
Live your life.
Yeah.
Do not put everything on hold because... say you're trying for a baby, just go out and live it. Go and do things. Like, I didn't want a career because I wanted to be a stay-at-home mum.
Yeah.
And I was so focused on trying to get there, but I just wish that in my whole 20s especially, I lived my life. I went and did stuff. I tried harder at doing things.
Yeah, okay.
I didn't put everything on hold, which is what I did up until last year.
Yeah.
And then that's when I finally just let go.
Yeah, and that's when it happened.
And they always say, when you stop stressing.
Yeah.
But I always thought that's such a cop-out answer, but it's kind of...
For you, it's
for me, just live my life.
Yeah.
Do things that you want to do.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't go places because I was like, oh, no, I've got... I need to, I don't know, I guess, not be in a good headspace because... I can't go and have fun because if I have fun, I'm not thinking about...
It's almost like you don't have the mental capacity to add, or the mental time to add anything else into your life because it's 100% dedicated to making a baby.
Yeah, it literally was.
Yeah.
Everything I did was, I'm not going to fall pregnant now.
Yeah, right.
Like, just go and live your life. Don't wait for it. Like, wait for it, I guess, to come to you. Don't chase it as hard. I don't know. It's really hard to say that because when you want something so much... you're going to chase after it.
Yeah.
But,
I think that's really good advice, but I've been in not with pregnancy, but in a position where I desperately wanted something and put everything onto that. And then I would get angry and frustrated and so upset that it wasn't coming to fruition.
You wouldn't do things.
Yeah.
But just live your life.
Yay.
Do things you want to do.
That is perfect. Well, thank you. And we are at the end.
It's okay. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.